more on those talks, we're joined now by Ross Harrison, a scholar at the Middle East Institute and professor at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. Thanks so much for joining us. John Kerry said Friday's talks were, quote, productive, but really the only conclusion reached was to hold more talks, hopefully next week. Are you optimistic that these leaders can make real progress on devising a diplomatic solution to the Syria conflict?
Well, I'm confident that there is a diplomatic solution to be had, but I'm not convinced that at this early stage in the military campaign, the Russian military campaign, that they're going to make much progress because the Russians have seized the initiative from the United States in this conflict, and the Saudis and the Turks are obviously reeling from this. So do I think that the next stage of diplomacy is going to work? Not necessarily, but I do think that there is a pathway ultimately to get to a diplomatic solution.
How much can really be done, though, if Iran, which is a major player in this conflict, is left on the margins and not included in these talks?
Not much. Iran has to be a part of the talks, either by proxy, either through the Russians or directly, and I would argue that they need to be there directly. So the Saudi claim that the Iranians can't be part of the talks is a non-starter in terms of actually making the diplomatic progress that you asked me about a minute ago.
And Russia is not only insisting that Iran be included, but Egypt as well. Is there some merit, at least, to that request?
Well, I think the more actors in the region, the more stakeholders in the region, the better. So there is merit. The rationale for it on the Russian part is, number one, that Egypt is one of the few Arab countries that backs the Russian claim that Assad must stay, at least in the interim period. And also, it's a Sunni country, so it kind of gives the Russians some political cover so that no one can charge it with just supporting Shia governments. So there's both merit and a rationale to it.
But there is some hypocrisy with the Russian side here. Russia also says that the Syrian people need to decide the fate of Bashar al Assad. So how would that ever be possible if Russia and so many other powers are all engaged, both military and politically, in this conflict?
Well, I think they're certainly not talking about the Syrian people having a say in the short term. I think it's clearly, this is a proxy war at this time. It's a regional proxy war, and then layered upon that regional, on top of that regional proxy war is now an international proxy war. So right now, the initiative is with the international powers, and the main international power is Russia. At some point in time, when the fate of Assad will be decided, and whatever government comes into power starts to become the primary focus, then I think the Russians are saying this is something for the Syrians to decide among themselves. It's not something that we should mandate, and it's certainly not something that the U.S. or the Saudis should predetermine in terms of in any kind of negotiation, or be a precondition for any kind of negotiation.